Picture this. You're 8 years old, playing in the dusty streets of a remote village somewhere in the vast Ottoman Empire. Your biggest worry is whether your mother will have enough bread for dinner or if your father will let you help tend the goats tomorrow. The sun beats down on your small shoulders as you chase a wooden hoop with a stick. Laugh other children who share your simpling with the hear it, the thunder, innocent world. Then you of approaching hooves, the J authoritative shouts in A angle of military harnesses, the language that makes your parents' faces go white with terror. Ottoman officials have arrived in your village, and they're not here for taxes or tribute. They're here for something far more precious and infinitely more devastating. They're here for you. Within moments, rough hands seize your small frame. Your mother's desperate screams pierce the morning air as she claws at the soldiers, begging them in broken Turkish to take anything else, their livestock, their land, their lives, but not her child. Your father stands frozen family. You're thrown onto a cart with, knowing that resistance means death for the entire 12 other boys, all of you too young to understand that you're about to disappear into a world so dark and twisted that your village doesn't even have words to describe it. This is your moment of innocence before entering the most last glimpse of childhood, your final secretive and horrifying institution in Ottoman history, the palace system that would transform you from a free village boy into something that defied every natural law. You don't know it yet, but you're about to become part of a machine designed to create the perfect servant, the ultimate companion, the most trusted advisor to the Sultan himself. And the price for this transformation will be everything that makes you human. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. Please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. The journey to Istanbul stretches before you like a nightmare from which you cannot wake. Days blur into weeks as your cart bounces along rutted roads, past landscapes that grow more foreign with each passing mile. The other boys in your cart speak different languages, come from different villages, but you all share the same hollow expression, the look of children who have seen their entire world vanish in a single morning. Your captors feed you just enough to keep you alive, give you just enough water to prevent you from dying of thirst, but they're not cruel for cruelty's sake. They're businessmen, and you are valuable merchandise that must arrive in acceptable condition. The weak ones, those who fall seriously ill or can't keep up, simply disappear during the night stops. You learn not to ask its soaring minarets and massive domes peer city of Istanbul finally comes into view, with where they've gone. As the great sing the sky, you should feel wonder at this architectural marvel. Instead, all you feel is a hollow dread settling in your stomach like a stone. This magnificent city represents everything you've lost and everything you fear you're about to become. The selection process begins the moment you arrive at the palace gates. Ottoman officials examine you with the calculating eyes of horse traders, checking your teeth, testing your reflexes, measuring your height and build. They're looking for specific qualities: intelligence, physical skin that's neither too dark nor too light. You beauty, the right bone structure, while scribes make a poked and prodded like livestock your estimated age. Your region notes on parchment, recording, but they're of origin. Any distinguishing marks. Something different about this selection process. Something that makes your skin crawl, even though you can't quite understand why. Certain boys catch the officials' attention in ways that seem to have nothing to do with intelligence or physical strength. They're examining facial features with particular intensity, running their hands along jawlines and throat areas, making comments in hushed tones that you can't decipher. You're among the chosen ones, selected for what the officials call special palace service. They tell you this is an honor, that you'll receive the finest education available anywhere in the world, that you might one day rise to positions of great power and influence within the empire. What they don't tell you is the price you'll pay for these privileges, or what special palace service actually means. The palace complex that becomes your new world is a maze of marble corridors, ornate chambers, and hidden courtyards that stretch as far as the eye can see. You're housed in a dormitory with dozens of other boys, all of you sleeping on silk-covered couches that feel like luxury compared to your village home, yet somehow feel like prison beds. The food is better than anything you've ever tasted, the clothes finer than anything your family could have afforded, but none of it can fill the growing emptiness where your identity used to be. Your first lesson in palace life comes from an older boy named Hassan, who approaches you on your third night with the kind of smile that makes your skin crawl. He's maybe 16, dressed in silk robes that mark him as someone who's advanced in the palace hierarchy, and he speaks to you with the casual authority of someone who's learned to navigate this system. "You're new," he says, settling onto the edge of your bed uninvited. "You don't understand how things work here yet, but I can help you. I can protect you, teach you the rules, make sure you don't make the kind of mistakes that get boys sent away in the middle of the night." His hand rests on your shoulder as he speaks, and something in his touch makes every instinct scream danger. But you're 8 years old, alone in a foreign place, surrounded by people who speak languages you don't understand. When someone offers protection, even protection that comes with an unnamed price, desperation makes you listen. "The palace operates on a system of patronage," Hassan continues, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The teachers and officials favor certain boys, give them better opportunities, easier lessons, more privileges. But favor has to be earned. There are ways that young boys can show gratitude to their superiors, special services that create bonds of loyalty and protection." You don't understand what he's talking about. Not really. But something deep in your gut tells you this conversation is leading somewhere dark. Hassan seems to sense your confusion because his smile grows wider, more predatory. "Don't worry," he says, his hand moving from your shoulder to rest briefly on your knee. "I'll teach you everything you need to know. Tomorrow, I'll introduce you to Master Kamal. He's one of the most important officials in the education system, and he's taken a special interest in helping new boys adjust to palace life. If you're smart, if you're grateful, he might become your patron. And trust me, you want a patron in this place." That night, you lie awake staring at the painted ceiling of your dormitory, trying to process what you've heard. The other boys around you sleep fitfully, some whimpering in their sleep, others maintaining the rigid silence that you're beginning to recognize as a survival mechanism. Outside your window, you can hear the distant sounds of the city, merchants calling their wares, horses clopping on cobblestones, the call to prayer echoing across the rooftops. But inside these palace walls, a different kind of existence awaits, one governed by rules you don't yet understand and prices you haven't yet been asked to pay. Tomorrow, you'll meet Master Kamal, and tomorrow, you'll begin to understand what special palace service really means. The morning comes too soon, bringing with it the next chapter of your transformation from village boy to palace creature, from innocent child to something else entirely, something the Ottoman Empire has spent centuries perfecting the art of creating. The bell tower of Hagia Sophia chimes 6 times as you're awakened by gentle but insistent hands shaking your shoulder. Master Kamal stands beside your bed, and your first impression is one of unexpected kindness. He's a man in his 40s with soft brown eyes and a carefully groomed beard, dressed in the flowing robes of a palace educator. His voice is warm, almost fatherly, as he speaks to you in accented but clear Turkish. "Come, young one. Today begins your real education." You follow him through corridors that seem to stretch forever, past rooms where you glimpse other boys bent over books and scrolls, their heads shaved in the distinctive palace style that you'll soon share. The sound of your bare feet on marble echoes in the vast spaces, mixing with distant voices, reciting lessons in Arabic and Persian. Master Kamal leads you to a smaller chamber, more intimate than the grand halls you've seen. Cushions are arranged around low tables, and the walls are lined with books bound in leather and gold. Sunlight streams through latticed windows, creating patterns on the floor that shift and dance as clouds pass overhead. "Sit," he says, gesturing to a cushion across from him. "Tell me about your village. What was your father's trade? Did you learn letters before coming here?" You answer his questions hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence as his gentle manner puts you at ease. He listens intently, nodding and asking follow-up questions that show genuine interest in your answers. For the first time since your capture, someone is treating you like a person rather than property. "You're intelligent," he concludes after an hour of conversation. "More intelligent than most who come to us. This is good. Intelligence makes everything easier." He pauses, studying your face with those kind eyes. But intelligence alone is not enough in this place. Success requires understanding, adaptation, and most importantly, trust between student and teacher. Master Kamal rises and moves to a chest in the corner of the room. From it, he removes a small leather pouch and returns to his seat. "These are dates from Damascus," he says, offering you one. "Sweet as honey, and worth more than your village sees in a month. Here in the palace, such luxuries are commonplace for those who earn favor. The date is indeed sweet, better than any fruit you've ever tasted, but there's something in the way he watches you eat it that makes your skin prickle. His eyes never leave your face, studying your reaction with an intensity that feels invasive. Tomorrow, you'll begin formal lessons with the other new boys," he continues. "Mathematics, languages, history, poetry. The education you'll receive here is beyond anything available in the greatest universities of Europe. But tonight, I want to give you a private lesson, something more personal." He moves closer, close enough that you can smell the rose water on his robes, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "The first lesson every palace boy must learn is obedience. Not the crude obedience of a slave, but the refined obedience of someone who understands their place in a greater system." His hand reaches out to touch your face, fingers tracing along your jawline with a gentleness that somehow feels more threatening than violence would. "Such a beautiful child," he murmurs. "The kind of beauty that opens doors, that creates opportunities. But beauty must be cultivated, protected, shared with those who can appreciate it properly." You want to pull away, but something in his manner, the authority in his voice, the casual way he assumes compliance, keeps you frozen. This is power, you realize. This is what it looks like when someone has complete control over another person's fate. "Stand up," he says softly. "Let me see you properly." You obey, though every instinct screams against it. Master Kamal circles you slowly, like an artist examining a sculpture, his hands occasionally reaching out to adjust your posture or touch your hair. "Yes," he says finally, "you'll do very well here. Very well indeed." The examination continues for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. He comments on your proportions, your coloring, the symmetry of your features, all in the tone of someone discussing a piece of art rather than a human child. When he finally tells you to sit again, you're trembling despite the warmth of the room. "Are you frightened?" he asks, settling back onto his cushion. "That's natural. Change is always frightening, especially for the young. But fear can be overcome through understanding, and understanding comes through trust." He leans forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "I am offering you something precious, my patronage. In this palace, boys without patrons struggle. They receive the harshest punishments, the most difficult assignments, the least favorable positions. But those under my protection prosper. They advance quickly, receive special privileges, and eventually rise to positions of real power within the empire. The offer hangs in the air between you like incense smoke, sweet-smelling but somehow poisonous. You understand that this is a crossroads moment, though you don't yet fully comprehend what paths diverge from this point. "What must I do?" you hear yourself asking, though the voice sounds distant, as if someone else is speaking. Master Kamal's smile widens, and for the first time, you see something predatory in his expression. "Nothing that will harm you," he says. "Nothing that isn't natural between teacher and student, between protector and protected. Simply trust me, obey me, and allow me to guide your development in all things." He rises again, moving to a cabinet you hadn't noticed before. From it, he removes what appears to be a small jar of oil, amber-colored and giving off a sweet scent that fills the room. "This is jasmine oil from Persia," he explains. "Very precious, very rare. It softens the skin, makes it smooth as silk." Your heart begins to pound as he approaches with the jar, though you still don't fully understand why. There's something in his manner, something in the way the afternoon light seems to dim as he draws closer, that fills you with a dread deeper than anything you felt during your capture or journey to the palace. "Remove your robes," he says quietly. "All of them." The words hit you like a physical blow. You've never undressed in front of a stranger, never been naked outside the privacy of your family's home. The request seems to violate some fundamental law of nature, something so wrong that your body rebels against even considering it. "I don't understand," you stammer. "Why must I?" "Because I am your teacher," Master Kamal interrupts, his voice still soft, but now carrying an edge of steel. "Because this is how things are done in the palace. Because refusing me would be unwise." He sets the jar of oil on a nearby table and settles back onto his cushion, waiting with the infinite patience of someone who has had this conversation before, who knows that resistance is futile and submission inevitable. "There are boys who come to the palace and fight every step of their transformation," he continues conversationally. "They cling to their village ways, their peasant modesty, their crude understanding of the world. These boys suffer greatly. They're broken by the system rather than shaped by it. They end up in the kitchens or the stables if they're lucky, in the sewers or the grave if they're not." He gestures around the beautiful room, at the books and cushions and latticed windows. "Or there are boys who understand that adaptation is survival, that the palace offers opportunities beyond their wildest village dreams. These boys learn to appreciate beauty, refinement, the pleasures that civilization can offer. They become favorites of sultans, advisors to viziers, men whose names are remembered in history. The choice he's presenting seems clear, but the price remains murky, hidden behind euphemisms and gentle words that somehow make the situation more terrifying than outright threats would. You look at his kind face, his patient smile, and realize that this man represents something far more dangerous than the soldiers who captured you. They were honest in their violence. Master Kamal is offering you poison disguised as honey. "Time grows short," he says, glancing toward the window where the afternoon light is indeed beginning to fade. "The other boys will wonder where you are if you're gone too long. Make your choice, child. Trust me, and begin your real education. Or boy who remain a frightened village will never understand the gifts this palace can offer." Your hands shake as they move toward the ties of your robe, knowing that whatever happens next will change you in ways you can't yet comprehend. That the boy who removes these clothes will not be the same person who puts them back on. The weight of your decision hangs in the perfumed air like a sword suspended by silk thread. Your small fingers fumble with the golden cord that holds your robe closed, each movement feeling like a betrayal of everything your parents taught you about modesty and self-respect. But Master Kamal's eyes never leave your face, watching your internal struggle with the detached interest of someone who has witnessed this same scene countless times before. "Good," he murmurs, as the fabric falls away from your shoulders. "Very good. You're learning already that wisdom lies in accepting guidance from those who know better." The cool air of the chamber raises goosebumps across your exposed skin, but it's nothing compared to the chill that runs down your spine as Master Kamal approaches with the jar of jasmine oil. His movements are deliberate, almost ceremonial, as if this moment carries significance far beyond what you can understand. The body is a temple, he says, beginning to warm the oil between his palms. In your village, you were taught to be ashamed of it, to hide it away like something dirty. But here in the palace, we understand that beauty is a gift from Allah, something to be cultivated and appreciated by those with refined tastes. His hands, slick with the sweet-smelling oil, begin their work on your shoulders. The touch is gentle at first, almost paternal, but there's something in the way his fingers linger, in the patterns they trace across your skin, that makes your stomach churn with unnamed dread. This isn't how fathers touch their sons, or teachers their students. This is something else entirely, something your young mind lacks the vocabulary to define, but your instincts recognize as fundamentally wrong. You have excellent bone structure, Master Kamal observes, his hands moving lower, across your chest and down your arms. Good proportions, smooth skin that will only improve with proper care. The palace physicians will examine you tomorrow, but I can already see that you possess the qualities necessary for advancement. You want to ask what kind of advancement, what these examinations will entail, but the words stick in your throat like thorns. Speaking would require acknowledging what's happening, and some part of your mind is desperately trying to pretend that this is all a terrible dream from which you'll soon awaken. There's nothing to fear, Master Kamal continues, though his reassurances feel more like threats. What we do here is sacred, a tradition that stretches back centuries to the founding of this great empire. Thousands of boys have stood where you stand now, felt what you feel, learned what you're about to learn. You're becoming part of something larger than yourself, something magnificent. His hands pause their exploration, resting on your trembling shoulders as he meets your eyes. In his gaze, you see something that chills your blood. Not cruelty exactly, but a complete absence of recognition that you're a human being rather than an object to be molded and shaped according to his desires. Tomorrow begins the next phase of your education, he says. You'll meet the palace physicians who will examine you thoroughly to determine your suitability for various forms of service. Some boys are destined for the military, others for administration. But a select few, those with the right combination of beauty, intelligence, and compliance, are chosen for something far more special. He reaches for a silk robe hanging on a nearby peg, but instead of offering it to you, he holds it just out of reach. Tell me, child, do you know why the greatest rulers in history surrounded themselves with eunuchs rather than whole men? The word hits you like a physical blow, though you're not entirely sure what it means. You've heard it whispered in your village, usually in connection with stories about the Ottoman court, but the adults always changed the subject when children were listening. Now, standing naked and trembling in this perfumed chamber, the word takes on a terrible significance that makes your knees weak. I see you've heard the term, Master Kamal says, noting your reaction. Good. Ignorance would only make tomorrow more difficult. Eunuchs, you see, are the most trusted servants in any palace. They cannot father children, cannot establish dynasties that might threaten their masters. Their loyalty is absolute because they have no divided allegiances, no family ties that might compromise their service. He finally offers you the robe, and you grab it gratefully, though the silk feels cold against your oil-slicked skin. More importantly, he continues as you struggle to cover yourself, they're capable of a kind of beauty, a refinement, that whole men can never achieve. Neither fully masculine nor feminine, they exist in a space between worlds, perfect companions for those sophisticated enough to appreciate their unique qualities. The implications of his words crash over you like a wave of ice water. You think of the older boys you've seen in the corridors, their smooth faces and graceful movements, their high voices and knowing glances. You remember Hassan's predatory smile, his offers of protection and advancement. Suddenly, everything clicks into place with horrifying clarity. The procedure is quite simple, Master Kamal says, settling back onto his cushion with the satisfied air of someone who has successfully delivered difficult news. The palace physicians are masters of their craft, skilled in techniques that have been refined over centuries. The mortality rate is quite low, especially for boys your age. Most recover completely within a few weeks and go on to lead lives of luxury and influence that their village families could never have imagined. You sink onto your cushion, the silk robe offering little comfort against the chill that has settled deep in your bones. Your mind reels as you try to process what you've just learned. Try to understand how the promise of education and advancement has led to this moment of ultimate violation. But that's tomorrow's concern, Master Kamal continues, rising from his seat with fluid grace. Tonight, you need only rest and prepare yourself mentally for the transformation ahead. I'll have the kitchen send special foods to help build your strength, and my personal physician will provide herbs to calm your nerves. The boy who entered that perfumed chamber would never leave it. Oh, his body would walk those marble corridors for years to come, would learn languages and mathematics and the subtle arts of palace intrigue. He would rise through the ranks, perhaps even achieve the kind of power and influence that Master Kamal promised. But the child who once chased wooden hoops through dusty village streets, who worried about bread and goats and whether his father would smile at him, that boy died the moment those gentle hands began their work. This is the story they don't teach in history classes, the human cost hidden behind the architectural marvels and diplomatic achievements of empire. For every palace that still stands today, for every magnificent dome that pierces the sky, there were countless children who paid prices that no civilization should have demanded. Their voices echo still through those marble halls, reminding us that behind every system of power lie individual human beings whose suffering was deemed acceptable for the greater glory of those who ruled them. The Ottoman Empire fell, but the machinery of exploitation it perfected lives on in different forms, wearing new faces but serving the same fundamental purpose, transforming the vulnerable into instruments of others' ambitions. The boy in our story represents thousands whose names we'll never know, whose individual tragedies were lost in the grand narratives of imperial success. We remember them now not as footnotes to history, but as human beings who deserved better than the fate that power and tradition conspired to give them.